What's up, YouTube fans? Today we're going to take a look at the Badcube Insecticons versus the FansToys Insecticons and do a comparison. These came out a while ago, but I only recently was able to get a hold of these. A friend of mine, James Magaletta, he sent these to me. Very nice of him to actually send these. A lot of people would be afraid to send these figures. They're worth a lot of money right now. So thank you to him for sending these out. We're going to go one by one through each of these characters just because it's too much to fit on screen to do them all together at the same time. But just as I always say in all of these kinds of videos, these comparisons, this is my opinion. So I'm going to give my opinion on which ones I think are better in different categories. That doesn't mean that if you own one or the other that I think you should get rid of it. It's totally my opinion. Your opinion may differ. If you've got what you like, then you're happy, then keep it and you win. So with that, let's get started and let's start off with accessories. So here are all the accessories, and let's just go over what's the same. So they all come with a gun. So I have those in their hands, so don't worry about those. Except for this one, he gets an extra hand, I think Mercenary, and it's an extra gun because if you don't like the purple that it comes with, you can have the chrome to match the other two. Beyond that, the Badcube comes with a single Energon Cube each, plus an extra face for these two guys. The FansToys come with 3 Energon Cubes per bot, plus alternate clear chest piece, plus extra legs. So if you want to get the toon accurate or toy accurate look, you can switch between them for these two guys. So pretty much no contest on accessories. FansToys takes it with just the sheer number and sheer usability of these. So let's start off with the versions of Bombshell, and we'll work our way through all the bots. Now, the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to score each character individually, just because there's no way to give a score across all 3 if things are slightly different between them. So let's start with this guy, and they're both really good looking, honestly. Let's take a quick 360 so you can take a look. You'll see on the back the Badcube is a lot cleaner. There's a lot more kibble on the FansToys. But in terms of the sculpt, let's take a quick look at the G1 cartoon here. And they're both really close. My personal opinion, though, is the Badcube definitely has that cartoon look with the gray chest piece that is definitely more like the cartoon. This does not come with the alternate pieces here, so you can replace it. But this is more in keeping with the set, right? The purple color, it just kind of matches better. The Badcube tends to stand out in the set because of the gray. And as far as the chest and just kind of the overall look, I think the Badcube hits the cartoon a lot better. So I'm going to give sculpt to Badcube. But when it comes to build, the Badcube is really quite light. So let's take a quick weight here. And I think you'll see that the FansToys has got a lot of die cast. So this is 9.5 ounces. The Badcube is just under 4 ounces. So more than double the weight for the FansToys. And that's just, there's a ton of good die cast in the legs, in the chest. I mean, pretty much everywhere. It's filled with die cast. It's really heavy. And when you articulate it and you play with it, it just feels like, yeah, you're playing with a premium toy. The Badcube, you pick it up, it doesn't feel bad, but it definitely is light, and it feels like, it just doesn't feel like the same premium toy. Is it going to break? No, I haven't broken these. I've transformed these, and they don't break. But it doesn't have that same build quality. It doesn't have that same premium feel. So for that reason, I'm going to give the build to FansToys. Now let's talk about the paint. So for the most part, the faces are pretty much painted the same. You can kind of see they both have the red metallic eyes, gray painted face. But as you move down the body, it's really no contest. The FansToys has way more paint, so the whole chest is painted. This replaceable chest piece is actually painted as well. That whole thing is this metallic yellow paint that looks really good. I don't want to scratch it up, but the legs are all painted. The crotch is painted. On the Badcube, the legs are painted this chrome color, but you don't have much down here. You got a little bit of red paint there, a little bit of purple, tiny accents here and there. You've got some blue back here. On the FansToys, you've got the purple here. Let's take a look. Not much on the back, but because you've got that whole chest painted, I'm going to give paint to FansToys. Next, we'll talk about the transformation and engineering. So both of these are pretty, okay. They're not impossible to transform, but I do find the Badcube just has a little bit better of a design because everything kind of folds away and packs away. So for design, I'm going to give it to Badcube. Just because of the way, I'm not saying design, engineering, I'll give that to Badcube. But when it comes to transformation, they're both, there's nothing really hard or easy about either of these. So I'll give transformation a tie for both of these. So here is Bombshell in his alt mode. Let's take a look at both of these. We'll take a 360. You do see there's some highlights here. The Badcube's got the red, the FansToys has got the purple. On the top, you've got the little bit of blue there that comes through from the robot mode. In the back, not really much going on, although the FansToys weapon, it kind of sticks out the back. It has a separate weapon for the front and for the back, whereas the Badcube's got the same weapon. It mounts here in the front. And it's not that secure, but I prefer having one weapon versus having to have two and one sticking out the back. I just think it doesn't look as good when all is said and done. So you end up with like extra stuff on the FansToys. But overall, if I'm looking at this as a whole, the paint really shines here in the alt mode. I think that's why they kept the purple, because the purple in the robot in the alt mode really is necessary to make it pop. And I think it's cartoon accurate. We'll put the cartoon image up there from the G1, and I feel like the FansToys hits it pretty well. The other thing that bothers me on this one is the head. It just kind of doesn't stay up. There's really no way to make sure it stays upwards. It just kind of falls. So for that reason, I'm going to give the alt mode in this to FansToys. So as far as articulation, they're pretty similar. They do a lot of the same stuff. The FansToys has the double jointed knees, but it's got limited head articulation, whereas the Badcube's got much more head articulation, but the knees are single jointed. He also has slightly better movement at the ankles, and he just plants a lot firmer in terms of because of the weight and because of the way his ankles articulate. He tends to just stand very firmly. The Badcube sometimes falls over. He's really light. Sometimes if you don't have the feet transformed right, he'll fall over. So they're both really good. They both have plenty of articulation, but I'm going to give it to FansToys just a slight edge because of what it's capable of doing, and just for the feel and the quality of the articulation. So the final factor here is cost. So the Badcube comes in a set, a value pack. The value pack is $190 at retail. So if you divide that by 3, that comes out to $63, I believe, give or take. And the FansToys at retail was $85. Some places were selling it for $83, but let's say $85 for sake of argument. Either way, it doesn't matter. The cost on the FansToys per toy was more, so we're going to give cost to Badcube. That's going to be the same on all of these, so we're not going to redo the score when we look at the others. So you'll see that I've marked the score a win for Badcube for all 3 figures. Let's talk about the shrapnel figure. Here they both are, and let's take a quick 360 of these two. Obviously, very different design choices here. You see the Badcube has a little bit more kibble for the arm piece, but then the FansToys has a little more kibble on the back for the legs. Both still pretty clean overall, but just different choices. And then on the front, you'll see some differences here in the choices. Let's take a look at the G1 cartoon of Shrapnel. And for me, they both kind of hit the cartoon in their own way. There are some liberties taken with both of these figures, like the blue here on the chest. The FansToys has the yellow stripe here, but I like that kind of accent, but it's not in the G1 cartoon. The FansToys also has this more golden or metallic yellow, whereas the Badcube is not painted, it's just this yellow plastic. So different choices in terms of the look, but overall they both look like the cartoon to me. There's not really anything that distinguishes them as being off. So I'm going to give a tie for the sculpt. In terms of paint, pretty easy pick here. So the FansToys has got extra paint on the chest, extra paint on the feet, and on this little detail right here. If we go to the thighs, are pretty much the same, and then this little blue highlight is the same. Face also the same, red visor, gray. If you go to the back, you'll see you got a little bit of yellow paint here, whereas the Badcube has a red, which is kind of their own choice. But in terms of overall amount of paint and look of the paint, we're going to give that to FansToys. It just got a slightly better look and feel for the paint. Also got the chrome here too. Now let's talk about the transformation engineering. So both of these transform very similar. They're slightly different, but neither of them are really a problem to transform. But engineering wise, I find the Badcube is a little bit more creative in terms of how they get everything to compact down. And, you know, there is a little bit of kibble here on the arms, but then you end up with that kibble on the back. So because this makes it a gun for the Badcube, I don't mind that it's a little bit bulkier. Now this gun is a little more sleeker, but I do like the way they've engineered the Badcube. It just seems like a smart move. So in terms of transformation, I'm going to give them a tie. But in terms of the build or the engineering, I'm going to give that to Badcube. I just think they did a little better job getting it clean look for it. Right here they are in their alt modes. Let's take a quick 360 of them. They are very similar, but of course there's some detail differences. You see there's some paint here on the side of the FansToys. Here's the back. They both have purple feet sticking out. On the top you've got still that same blue piece, and then the FansToys got a little bit of yellow, whereas the Badcube's got that red highlight. And then the chrome obviously stands out much more in this mode because it's at the forefront, whereas the silver paint just it looks good, it just doesn't pop as well as the FansToys. So overall, considering everything, considering the look, you also get a lot more articulation on the FansToys. The Badcube kind of had just as one piece. You can't really move. You can move these, but pretty much there's not a lot of articulation there. So in terms of the alt mode, I'm going to give it to FansToys. Now that's not to say getting here is fun. Actually, I don't really like the transformation, and we already gave transformation to Badcube, but this just confirmed it for me. Getting stuff tabbed in and pushed into place is a little bit more difficult and not as intuitive. So anyway, we'll give the alt mode to FansToys. So now let's get into the articulation. So we'll start off with the FansToys. The antenna is on a swivel here. It does end up pushing this piece here, which covers the face in the insect mode. So that's a little bit hindering. Also, the head is on a ball joint. It goes up to there, down to there. It is kind of hindered, but that's just the design of the character. It does get in its own way. Moving on to Badcube, you have very similar articulation. So you have the antenna are separated from these front pieces, which I like. I like that they're not hindering each other. And these are on ball joints, so you can get them sort of rotated any orientation. So I do like that over the FansToys way of doing these. These do articulate, but you just want them out of the way for robot mode. The head is on a ball joint, and it gets all the way up to there. It is a little bit hindered by the stuff back here, but you can get it way up. So, and then also it rotates. It's just a little bit tight. So a lot more articulation on that head than the FansToys, but they both are hindered by all the junk around it. So just because the amount of articulation and how it doesn't hinder, especially these antenna and some of the legs, and there seems to be a little bit more on the Badcube. So we're going to give articulation to Badcube. Talk about the kickback figures. And big elephant in the room, you can obviously see that his wing is broken off here. I do have the wing. It was glued on, sent to me, but it broke off, I guess, in shipping. I'm not going to glue it back on. I just don't want to cause any damage to this at all, considering the cost of these right now. But with that being said, we have to factor that in to this review. This is a part that breaks very often. In fact, on the other side, it is broken down here as well. So those wings are definitely part of the evaluation of these, or the comparison of these. And I can't ignore that. It's not a one-off thing. A lot of people have broken that part. So we're gonna talk about that. But let's start off with the sculpt. So let's bring in the G1 cartoon over here. And they both look really good. They both have really good face sculpts, I'll say that. But when it comes to kind of the look and the I guess the proportions, it does feel like FansToys has hit the proportions a little bit better. You can see there's a lot more kibble on the FansToys version, especially on the back. There's some things hanging out off the legs and off the back. Whereas the Badcube's just got that painted piece there. Everything went inside of his chest. But because everything goes in the chest bulges out just a bit. And that does throw off the sculpt ever so slightly. Looking straight on, it's fine. You don't really notice it. I mean, there's a little bit of a bulk here, but when you turn it to the side, or if you're at any angle at all, it definitely stands out. You'll notice also this chest piece tends to just fall open on its own. But in terms of sculpt, I think I'm going to give it to the FansToys because they didn't sacrifice the look of the figure to get it to transform. In this particular case, they usually go for looks over transformation ease, that's their MO. So we're going to give sculpt to FansToys. Next, we'll talk about the paint. So once again, FansToys has a lot more paint on their figures, so the chest is all painted. Faces are pretty much the same, painted visor and face mask. But then you've got some paint down here on the knees. You do have some paint on the Badcube, but then the feet are completely painted, all purple. You've got the paint down here, the red accents, red and silver accents on the foot. You got the blue and the red here. So a lot of, and then a little blue accent and a yellow accent here on the chest. On the Badcube, and you've got some paint on this too, I guess. So you got the silver, you got a little red accent there, accent here, that metallic blue paint on the side. So they're pretty close, but the chest on the Badcube, or the FansToys, is painted here. And the look of that is pretty nice. The plain plastic, the plain yellow plastic, kind of doesn't stand out to me. It doesn't say masterpiece. So for paint, we're going to give that to FansToys. So next we're going to talk about the engineering and transformation. Now, I really think this is ingenious, the way Badcube did it. All the legs go inside the body and it hides away. Unfortunately, they sacrificed sculpt for that, but we already gave sculpt to FansToys. So for transformation, just the way they did, and also the back of the legs, Kickback's leg go inside of his robot legs, which is really very, very creative. So for transformation, I'm definitely giving it to Badcube. Just the creativity and the overall way they did it is very impressive. Engineering as well, I'm going to give to Badcube. Main reason being this, right? This is not good engineering. Poor design to put a very small joint, and it's easy to stress this. I'm trying not to be careful. There is articulation here, but you basically don't want to use it because you're going to break it. Obviously, it's broken. Same around here, rotating this and trying to transform it. It's very, very easy to break. So because of that, I'm going to give engineering as well to Badcube. So here they both are in their alt modes. Let's take a quick 360. You'll see some details. You know, they both chose slightly different. You know, FansToys got some dots and some lines here. Badcube's got some different kind of paint. Very similar. Here's the back. And the wings on the FansToys does articulate, so you can get them out to the side, which is nice. These, the Badcube does not articulate. You can move it up and down, but you can't articulate it to the side. These legs also are a little bit weak. They tend to, as you're playing with them, they kind of move out of the way. Also, the back legs don't really sit properly, whereas in the FansToys, you get this nice arching thing like a grasshopper should be. So it looks kind of, looks right. Let's take a look at the G1 cartoon. We'll put that over here. And they're both pretty darn close. They both look really close to the cartoon. I don't really see anything glaring that doesn't look good. The only thing I would say, these feet and legs are pretty close on the FansToys in terms of the, you know, looking like the cartoon. And then the chrome on the wings really stands out, helps it to stand out. So I'm going to give alt mode to FansToys because it looks good. All right, now let's talk about the articulation on these guys. We'll start with the FansToys here. The head is on a strange joint, so the face rotates separately from the helmet, and if you move the head up just a little bit, it starts to lose the sculpt. So you really don't get too much there, maybe a couple of millimeters, but it does rotate all the way around. It's just a strange joint. The ears do rotate, but it's made of this really rubbery material, and I'm afraid to break it, but it does move back and forth, so I'm not going to move it too much. This is actually starting to get irritating. This chest just falls down. I've probably could tighten the screw, maybe that might help, but again, don't want to break it. It's not my toy. Now let's take a look at Badcube. Badcube, you do get the head on this very, very good articulation. The ears are not the rubbery thing, it's just a plastic, and they do rotate, so you can pose those, which is nice, and it rotates. You can move the wings back and forth if you want to pose them. You can put them upwards and downwards. You don't feel like you're going to break them. They don't move in and out like the FansToys. So in terms of articulation, you do get a lot more with the head, and because this thing breaks at the articulation point with the wings, this one just feels a lot better. You don't feel like you're going to break it. I'm going to give articulation on this guy to Badcube. So final thoughts on these guys. You can see the score up here in the corner, and surprise, surprise, it's a tie. I wasn't expecting that. There's a lot of things that the FansToys set does well, and they're really, they feel really good in hand. They've got really good paint, just everything you've come to expect from FansToys. I mean, obviously these are older figures, but where they excel in looks, paint, and quality, they fail on transformation. So almost all of them are kind of irritating to transform. Some of them actually break, like this one. This one actually has multiple issues when you try to transform it. It's just a very fragile part, you know, this wing piece. And that just kind of gets in the way of enjoying the experience all the way. The Badcube is kind of fun, you know, it doesn't really, it's not a pain to transform back and forth, and it looks fine in both modes. I do think the FansToys looks better overall in both modes. So if you have one or the other, then I would stick with it. There's no reason to switch, just because they're pretty close. If you don't have either one of these, it's a very, very clear winner is going to be Badcube. And the reason I say that is right now, in order to buy these guys, you're going to have to spend upwards of $600 because these are going for a lot of money. They're a collector's item. Now, that wasn't what they were at retail. So the cost I tabulated for retail, I think it was $85 each. Still, at that cost, it was more than these. But that being said, right now, getting these, is it worth $600 or $200 each I'm going to have to say no. I don't think it's worth that. And these you could get, I think actually for $130. I saw it right now listed in different stores and on eBay for $130. So given that they're kind of equal and they sort of trade on the sacrifices they've made, if you don't have either one of these sets, I would definitely go for the Badcube just for the money and for what you're getting for that money. But if you already have the FansToys and you're happy with it, there's no reason to change it out. They're a very good set. And especially if you're leaving it in the robot mode and that's how you're displaying it, you're not planning to transform it, then it's perfect for that. So that's really it. Thanks for watching, guys. Obviously, again, this is my opinion. So if you have a different opinion, feel free to share it in the comments below. I'm totally open to hearing what you guys have to say. But thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.